Release the Kraken!
All right, hope you enjoyed that little intro. So, I was going to release the entire fucking hearing all at once, but that goes for more than 3 hours, and there is no way you motherfuckers are listening to that entire 3 fucking hours, okay? I could barely do it. There's no fucking way you're doing it. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to split this video up in a little 10-minute segments. Each person that comes forward and gives their little witness statement, I'm going to release those, and it'll just be my commentary over those little witness statements. So the first one I'm going to release is the opening statement from Giuliani, and he's basically presenting in front of the senators all of the evidence that he's got so far, or at least he's summarizing the evidence he's got so far. Quite a few of the claims he makes in this don't actually come out in this hearing, but he's definitely alluding to it in the hearings to come. Probably in Georgia, Michigan, etc., whatever else it is to come out. So at the moment, we'll just do Giuliani's first, and he'll just be doing his intro speech. So this is nuts. Stay tuned throughout the night. I'll just be uploading each little segment as we go along. So let's start off with Giuliani's. Here we go.
I would just simply say, welcome to America's Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Giuliani, for being here.
What an intro. Wow. A chant. Get a little chant going. Wow. It's a long round of applause.
Representatives, Senator Mastroianni, and all the distinguished members of the legislature of Pennsylvania, we are very, very honored and very appreciative that you are giving us an opportunity to be heard, which we've been denied almost uniformly by the media and by legislatures elsewhere.
That is strange, actually. You would think with a story like this, an attempted coup happening, that that would be slammed all over legacy media. It's not. Very strange. Makes no fucking sense at all.
All we ask is that you listen to the facts that we're presenting and then evaluate it. I can't help but note that we're doing it here in Gettysburg.
Yeah, he does this a few times throughout the little hearing. He keeps talking about Gettysburg. Okay, that's cool and all, but do people really care? I mean, not really. No one really gives a fuck about where it is. I mean, all you're doing there is just striking an emotion. And you don't fucking need to do that in this because you've got a whole shit ton of facts which you're going to fucking present, and it backs up your fucking story. So you don't need to bring my emotions into it. You don't need to bring anyone's emotions into it. Just present the facts, okay? You don't need to say, oh, Gettysburg, 150 years ago, blah, 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 blah. No one really fucking cares anymore, and is it really relevant to the hearing today? Yeah, not really. So, I mean, it serves no purpose mentioning that, you know?
Over 156 years ago, the fate of our country hung in the balance right here on this hallowed ground for 3 relentless days of bloody close combat between 2 armies that lost over 50,000 casualties. The fate of our republic was really decided that we'd be one nation, one union, one government, sharing values that are enormously important to us. And
like that, okay, think about taking that and putting it in front of any other little speech. It could go universally anywhere. It doesn't really tie into this specifically. You could use that in so many instances. So, I mean, I don't understand why he's using that. He's just getting my emotions tied up in it.
And I don't want to overstate it, but I do believe that those values are at stake, not only in this election, but in the way this election was conducted and in what we're going to do about it. Because if we allow elections in the future to be conducted the way this election was conducted, we will have lost our democracy, our representative democracy. During the course of this election, we've come pretty close to losing our right of free speech. There's been censorship that I've never seen before of an incredible nature by big tech, big networks, big companies. They only allow one side to be heard. and they refuse to allow the other side to be heard. It's almost as if they're afraid the American people, if they should learn these facts, will find out just who they are and what they're about. This voter fraud that took place, which, as you will see from the witnesses that we call, had several dimensions to it, several different ways in which it was done. The most dangerous thing is it is very, very similar in at least 6 states that we've been able to study.
Yeah.
In other words,
he doesn't present that at all in this hearing. That's not to say that he doesn't have those in other states, but in this one, he's only referencing Pennsylvania the entire time. He never mentions another state, or at least no facts get brought forward for the other states. It is solely Pennsylvania. That doesn't mean it's not to come in the future. Just during this hearing, the whole way through it, he doesn't bring any facts or evidence forward for other states. So just keep that in mind.
What we're going to describe to you with these witnesses happened in roughly the same way in Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Primary device were the mail-in ballots. You know there was a fierce debate over whether we should have mail-in ballots in the first place. Many scholars, many experts always felt that mail-in ballots were very dangerous because they're very easy to forge. It leads to more defrauding. We were warned by Justice Souter, among others. We were warned by President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker in a report that they did on how to make elections more secure. They warned us that the one thing to do is do not go to general mail-in voting because every place it's been used, it's led to tremendous fraud. And that was reiterated, believe it or not, in an article in the New York Times in 2012, an article they have now forgotten they wrote, that explained the same thing. And I think what you're going to find as you study your mail-in ballot procedure here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and then in the 6 other places, this was a terrible mistake, and it allowed the leadership of a party that had become pretty expert at voter fraud.
I don't know where he gets that from. Is he saying the Democrats are really good at voter fraud? Where's he? I don't know where he's getting that information from. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time this has happened. So I don't know where he's getting that from. I feel like that's he's just talking shit at the moment. He's just calling them out, but he's not really backing it off anything, or at least anything I know about. If this has happened before, especially from the Democrats, and it's backing up what he said, link it down below. Share it with everyone. You know, get that out there if that exists. But you know, at the moment, I've never heard of it.
To really go wild. So the witnesses we present are going to first show you that in the case of Philadelphia and in the case of Allegheny County and 1 or 2 other counties, the mail-in ballots that were received were not inspected at all by any Republican. They were hidden from Republicans. In the case of Philadelphia and Allegheny County, I can't be absolutely certain, but I believe the witnesses will show that a Republican never got to see a single ballot. Now, you know how important that is to determining whether it is a valid ballot.
So as far as it goes for all of Pennsylvania, this obviously doesn't go for a week straight, this hearing, which means that he hasn't been able to get a statement from every single Republican in every single county in Pennsylvania. So he's just presenting the main ones, or at least what he's claiming is the main ones. Now, it's very possible that when their senators leave this and they go and do their own research, that they could in fact find out if it's every single Republican. But as far as using the words, every single Republican was denied, I mean, that's a bold fucking claim. Yes, he has Republicans come forward and say that they couldn't see it and they were being kept away from it. But to say that's all of Pennsylvania, I mean, that's a big fucking call. That's a big fucking call. It could be the case but that's definitely not presented during this hearing. But when the fucking witnesses do talk about how they were denied, it's pretty fucked up. It is pretty fucked up.
Or not, there's only one time you get to do that, and that's when you separate the envelope that possesses the verifying information from the ballot. The moment you separate them, you can no longer verify. You can't go back and recount. You can't go back and check paper ballot against the machine ballot, because it's a private ballot. It's an anonymous ballot. We want to keep it that way. The only thing that identifies it is that outer envelope. At that moment, when they're separated, gone forever. That's the moment at which inspections have been allowed, time immemorial, in America, Pennsylvania, all of our other 49 states. Several of the witnesses here have been doing this for 20 or 30 years. They've never heard of a situation in which a mail-in ballot was just put in without allowing a Republican, a Democrat, even third-party members to take one look at it and object to it, for the very reason that it's too prone to fraud. Think about this. In your state, Republicans were uniformly not allowed.
Again, there's no evidence for uniformly. There's definitely, I think, 3 during this hearing that come forward and say it. But as far as uniformly across Pennsylvania, you would literally have to have every single Republican watcher come forward to back that up, which they obviously don't do in this hearing. So I'm not saying that's not the case. Hopefully the senators that he's presenting to now are going to go out and investigate that. But he does not present anything in this hearing that would back that up. So just keep that in mind.
Out, put in chutes, like they were cows.
Definitely happened for some of them. But yeah, again, the uniformly thing, I don't know where he's getting that from. I don't know how he's able to say that.
To keep them away from seeing these ballots. Never happened before. Not only that, the same thing was done in Michigan, the same thing was done in Wisconsin, and on and on and on.
We will have to wait for those hearings to happen before we can back that up. Again, he's just saying that at the moment.
What's the chance that on the morning of November 3rd or 4th, when they started the count, that in each one of those places, the Democrat leadership of these highly controlled Democrat cities that have some history for corruption, and in the case of Philadelphia...
I don't know where he's getting that from. I could be wrong, but I don't know where he's getting that from.
A long history of voter fraud. I could show you the convictions. I don't think I have
Please
to.
do. Please present them something.
What are the odds that they're all going to wake up with the same idea? After years and years of always examining together absentee ballots, all of a sudden, in a year in which we have a couple million of them per state, we're not going to allow any Republicans to see them. The person in Philly figures that out, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Milwaukee, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay, if that's true, and all these locations that he's naming have had the Republicans denied, and we'll have to wait to see if this is the case or not, but if that's true, then holy fuck, he's right. That's too much of a coincidence for them to individually think that, which means somewhere along the lines, there is some sort of puppet master orchestrating this. Now, usually what happens when the police do an investigation into crime, they go after the person with the most motive in the situation, which would obviously be the left. Now, I'm not saying it's the left. I'm just saying if the police were to conduct an investigation, they would usually go after the person or people that have the most to benefit from it, the most motive. But that's just conjecture. So it would have to come back to actual proof to actually, get proof of it, really. So at the moment, in this hearing at least, and if the other hearings go ahead as well and they back up the same thing, I don't know if there's going to be any proof that's going to link it back to any party, because it's just going to be all these individuals doing these things. It would be very hard. I mean, it would be very unlikely that any sort of paper trail would be left behind that would be naming anyone. It could happen, but I doubt it. I mean, that would be pretty fucking dumb to leave that kind of shit behind. Maybe they don't think they're going to get caught. Who knows? Who knows? But I think what's going to happen is that, this county is going to have Republicans that weren't allowed to watch. This county is going to have Republicans that weren't allowed to watch. And there's going to be a heap of those scattered everywhere. If that is the case, your logical brain would go to think of the person who's going to benefit from that the most. However, there's not going to be, at least in my opinion, any evidence to actually back that up and make that concrete. So if he's right, though, obviously then there's someone orchestrating that. It's too big of a coincidence for that for that to occur. Way too big of a coincidence. But again, we'll have to wait to find out how many places is coming back with the Republicans that weren't allowed to watch. We have to wait to find out. That's all we can do at the moment.
Or is it more likely that this was a common plan?
Yeah, of
that
course.
maybe started with the whole idea of having mail ballots, because it gives you a much
that's
wider...
conjecture. I mean, there's no way to prove that. It's very unlikely there's going to be a paper trail left behind that's going to prove that.
range to cheat.
Yeah,
When you had just a small number of absentee ballots, like 400,000, you have a certain range that you can cheat. When you have 250 or 2.5 million, you have a much bigger range to do that.
Of course.
So when you hear that testimony about not being allowed to see the ballot, you have to understand it's much more important than just that individual ballot. On election night, when I went to sleep, maybe when you did, President Trump was leading in your state by somewhere around 700 to 800,000 votes, depending on when you went to sleep. That's a huge number of votes. 65% of the vote had been cast. Under normal circumstances, like if this were a fair media, your state would have been called for Trump. I mean, Virginia was called with 10% of the vote. It turned out to be separated by 1%. I think we may actually won Virginia, but that's another battle. Michigan, we were ahead by 300,000 votes. Wisconsin, more. Georgia, we were down to 90% and ahead. What are the odds that they all switched overnight? They just switched by the next day. I think you're going to see...
I don't know what the odds are, but it's definitely possible. Whether or not it's happened or not, we'll have to wait to find out, especially in Georgia. But definitely with the evidence that he presents here for Pennsylvania, just wait and see. It's pretty fucking revealing.
I think you're going to see how that happened. And I think there are a couple of statistics that you have to really closely look at. I'll just mention them and then we'll move on to the witnesses. We have calculated, and the evidence will show, that there were 682,770 mail-in ballots that were entered into your votes in just Allegheny County and in Philadelphia that were not observed by any single Republican. Those ballots could have all been for Joe Biden. They could have all been for someone else. They could have had no identifying data. They could have been from the same person. There could have been multiples of them. There could have been no name on them. We have no idea if that's true. And it will be very hard now to kind of put them together. We could ask, and you could subpoena, all of the outer envelopes. It'd be very interesting to take a look at the 682,770 outer envelopes. It'd be very interesting if they were kept. And it would be very interesting to see how
I doubt they would have been. What, November 3rd? It's the 25th today, 26th today. I doubt very much that they've been kept.
Many of them weren't filled out. But in any event, under the law of your state, which is set by you, those ballots are illegal. The judge, mistakenly in his opinion, said that we want to disenfranchise 6 million people. We don't want to disenfranchise anyone. We want to disqualify 682,000 votes so that 74 million people are not disenfranchised. Because that's what happened by the cheating that went on here. I'll give you one other enormously puzzling statistic. You sent out in the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania 148 absentee or mail-in ballots. You received back 1.4 million approximately. However, in the count for president, you counted 2.5 million. I don't know what accounts for that 700,000 difference between the number of ballots you sent out and the number of ballots that ended up in the count. That number, 2,589,242, was on your government website until yesterday. And yesterday it was removed without explanation. I'm going to be very interested in hearing what the explanation is. And I can't imagine you could possibly...
Yeah, that's fucking sus. That's pretty fucking sus.
...certify without knowing the explanation of that, as well as the explanation to the 22,686 mail-in ballots that were returned on the day they were mailed. That's
fucking sus. That's really fucking sus.
Trick. How about they were returned? How about 32,591 were returned the day after they were mailed? Another 20,000 were returned before they were mailed.
20,000 were returned before they were mailed. Are you fucking shitting me? What the fuck do you mean? Why are you having a hearing for this? That's immediate disqualification. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't need to have a hearing for that. That's pretty fucking obvious what the fuck that is. Why is this at a fucking hearing? That doesn't need to be at a hearing. That should be immediately disqualified. There's no proof required for that. If 20,000 have come back before they've been sent out, then they're not real fucking votes. That doesn't take a fucking genius to work out. That is fucking common knowledge. That is a fucking... You don't need any explanation for that. Throw those fucking votes out.
Of course, this is...
Listen to them. They're laughing. They're laughing at how fucking ridiculous that sounds. They shouldn't be laughing because you're talking about performing a fucking coup on a fucking American president. So it's definitely not a fucking laughing matter. But fuck, what else can you do in a situation like that? 20,000 getting fucking returned before they were sent out? What do these people do? Go crazy instead of laughing? Fuck, you gotta laugh at that. The fuck else can you do apart from go insane? Holy shit.
I think this is a kind of a low count, and I guess the crooks in Philadelphia are disappointed in this. They only submitted 8,021 ballots from dead people, mail-in ballots for dead people. It's probably easier for dead people to submit mail-in ballots than it is to vote in person. You had about 30,000 of those.
30,000 dead people voted in person? What the fuck? This lady in the corner, that is the perfect facial expression. Perfect. To summarize what he just fucking said. Bullshit. 30,000 people that are registered as dead turned up and voted. Yeah, bullshit. Fuck off. Holy fuck. What are you doing? Who's 30,000? What's going on? The fuck is going on? Is no one doing their job? Fucking hell.
We're checking the records of the cemeteries around Philadelphia. You have 4,984 mail-in ballots that were never requested, and on and on and on and on. Your election, because of these two counties and maybe one other, is a sham. It's a disgrace to your state. And finally, I don't need to remind you of this. I think I need to remind America of this. The election for President of the United States is not run by the governor of your state. It's not run by your election commissioner. The United States Constitution makes it clear who has the responsibility for running this election. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of our Constitution doesn't say that ABC gets to call the winner or CNN. It says each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct. a number of electors. It's the state legislature that controls this process. It's your power. It's your responsibility. And I think you know, and you have to convince the rest of your members, Republican and Democrat, they owe that to the people of your state, and they owe that to the people of the United States. Amen. Because if this happens without consequence, if they can just enter 600,000 some odd mail-in ballots without allowing a single Republican to view it, what's to say that next time they won't do 1 million or 2 million? I know crooks really well. You give them an inch and they take a mile, and you give them a mile and they take your whole country. So now we'll proceed with the witnesses.
All right, so there you go. I mean, okay, so what he's going to do now is going to have all the witnesses come forward, and they're going to back up all of those claims that he's just made there. Again, he's not going to prove any evidence here for the other states. This is just Pennsylvania for the moment, okay? So any claims he's just made about other states, there's no facts to back that up as of yet. But everything he said about Pennsylvania, holy shit. Tune in for the next few fucking episodes. I'm just going to be covering this, and I'm going to be breaking it up into every witness that comes forward. It is fucking crazy. Wait till you hear the story about the grandmother and the granddaughter. What the fuck? This is insane. Alrighty, tune in for the next ones. And you all know the drill. Like, subscribe, share around.